In this recording, we're talking about chapter 22, and this is on spending and output. So let's talk about what we know first, that's output, and we've talked about that as GDP Y. Okay, so what is the characteristic of Y? Well, it is both GDP and income. Okay, as we discussed in class, GDP, gross domestic product, is equal to the total income of a country because the amount the country is producing is also the amount of income that it is getting from selling those goods. What is Y compared to planned aggregate expenditures, though? Okay, so if Y is total aggregate output, aggregate income, what is the relationship between that and the planned expenditures a country had before the given period? Okay, so you can think of PAE, planned aggregate expenditures, as being the country's plan for what output may be next year. Y is the realization, which may differ from PAE. So let's give PAE a definition. First, I'm going to let Z equal PAE. Okay, why do I use Z? Z is just different notation. I find the notation of using 3 letters to mean one variable to be very clunky, so let's use Z instead of PAE. So planned aggregate expenditures, Z, is going to be equal to C plus I bar plus G. Let's talk about what C plus I bar plus G is. We know that in a closed economy, Y, GDP, is C plus I plus G. The difference here, obviously, is I bar and I. I is going to be the amount of investment that actually occurs in the country. I bar, again, is this planned investment. So I bar goes into Z, planned aggregate expenditures. So this is the key difference between I bar, Z, and Y. So again, as a side note, just like the book uses PAE to be in planned aggregate expenditures, instead of I bar, it uses IP. Okay, so I use I bar, it's a more standard notation. So let's clear this all up and write again, planned aggregate expenditures, Z, is equal to consumption plus planned investment plus government spending. Now let's break down C. What is C? Well, the book is going to give it a equation. C is equal to C bar plus MPC plus Y minus T. Again, I'm going to change the notation here. And write C equals C0 plus C1 Y minus T. What is this relationship? Well, we can plot it. Let's plot this to talk about what it is. I'm going to put a axis down, and I'm going to put a Y minus T here and a C here. Given the equation C equals C naught plus C1 Y minus T, we can plot this thing as C0 with the slope of C1. Okay, so this is a standard linear equation. What are the two sides of these things, and what are C0 and C1? Y minus T is known as disposable income. As we've discussed, Y is income, so Y minus T, or taxes, is the rest of the income you have left over for spending on goods. C is just consumption. C0 is something known as subsistence consumption. Okay, so there are a lot of terms for C0. I prefer the term subsistence because look at this equation. What it says is consumption is C0 plus C1 Y minus T. Y minus T is disposable income, so we can imagine if this were 0, then the entire equation would be C equals C0. Subsistence means the bare minimum amount of consumption that you can have and still survive. So that term makes sense in the case that you have 0 disposable income, you have C equals C0 subsistence consumption. C1, on the other hand, is going to be known as the marginal propensity to consume. What does this mean? Out of every dollar of Y minus T, for every little block we move over, we go up an amount. Okay, so let's look at this red line. We go over some amount. As we go over a little bit, we go up. This is exactly the slope, C1. So C1 is called the marginal propensity to consume exactly because it has this characteristic of being the slope of the red line. Out of every dollar of disposable income you get a little bit of consumption up. So the slope is exactly that, which is why we call C1 the marginal propensity to consume. Okay, so I'm going to end this recording, go on to the next one to see how we use this to draw the Keynesian cross.